So it's really important, I think, to monitor stuff like Mel Kiper's big board, and there's a reason why. And I think tonight I'm going to talk to you about if you look at Mel's big board, it just shows how good Georgia's talent is and its development too. He came out with a big board today. He's got his number one overall person is Will Anderson. Jalen Carter's at number three. He also has Keely Ringo at number 20 overall. He's only got 25 folks in there. He's got Stetson Bennett is not in the top 10 of quarterbacks. That's not surprising to me. But I do think Stetson's going to get drafted. But I think if you think about uh, Georgia's players, quarterback is not really a big concern right now. At running back, neither of Georgia's guys right now are in the top 10, according to Mel Kiper. Uh, but this is where it starts to kind of develop. Arik Gilbert is number one for fullbacks, H-backs. Now, he's not really had much of an impact so far this season at wide receiver, and these are for draft eligible folks. Georgia's receivers, it does not surprise me that none of the guys who are older and draft eligible are in this top 10. But when you start looking at everything else from here on out, tight ends, Darnell Washington, number 8. Obviously, Brock Bowers is not eligible to be drafted. Offensive tackles, Broderick Jones, number 4. Guards, no guards. Cedric Van Pran, the number 2 center. Defensive ends. They don't have any defensive ends in there for Georgia at all. Obviously, we talked about Jalen Carter at defensive tackle. Outside linebacker, Nolan Smith at number 5. Corner, Keely Ringo, the number 3 corner behind Joey Porter Jr. at Penn State. Cam Smith at South Carolina. Safeties, Christopher Smith at number 7. Kickers and punters, Jack Panesley. I mean, it's just so many guys in this list. It's hard. I mean, Alabama has quite a few folks on here for sure, but it's hard to really. I think what I'm trying to say here is you get to a point in the season where you take a look at where everything is for Georgia. There are linebackers, they're inside linebackers, they're young. When you look at the receivers, the talent, the most gifted guys, McConkey, Mitchell, they are young. Now, Kyrus Jackson not being in the top 10, I'm not surprised by that, but uh, it's a death by a thousand paper cuts at that receiver position. I think we know how good Georgia's tight ends are. I think we know how high a level Stetson Bennett is playing. But all these other guys, Cedric Van Pran, Broderick Jones, Christopher Smith, Keely Ringo, some of these guys, Nolan Smith, some of these guys are not guys that you immediately think of that would necessarily be All Americans. I mean, Cedric Van Pran, I think, should be an All American candidate. I don't know if he should be a first team guy or not or whatever. Darnell, number 8, and he's at tight end. Eric Gilbert at number 1 for fullbacks and H-backs. Um, it just shows the amount of depth that Georgia's got. I don't see Tank Bigsby on this running backs list, which is very curious to me. But at quarterback, also too, uh, C.J. Stroud at 1, Will Levis at Kentucky going 4th overall at number 2, Bryce Young falling all the way to number 6, the number 3 quarterback, Anthony Richardson at number 4. That's certainly about development. About potential. And then Tyler Van Dyke at Miami. These are all guys. Hendon Hooker at 8. I don't think he would have been that high coming out of Virginia Tech. We know that. That's for sure. Hey, make sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION today. It's a great time to pick it up. We've had a lot of orders lately. Do not miss out on this book for you and yours. Forward is from Jeff Foxworthy, who is a famous comedian, if you didn't know who that is. Tons of pictures you're just not going to see anywhere else. Double truck pictures. An awesome publication, if I do say so myself. Hey, this weekend when you're going to get on town, make sure you're going to Red Zone on Clayton Street. You can still pick up this magazine there, probably. There were 12 left as of earlier this week, so it might not be left there. Anyway, Red Zone on Clayton. Make sure that you're going by there when you go to Athens. I think, just looking at the board, I have a big board too, by the way. when you look at guys like Ladd McConkey, A.D. Mitchell, we'll see what happens with Dominique Blaylock. At tight end, they could have four guys on this team get drafted in possibly in the top 50 of each of their drafts. At offensive line, I'm a little surprised Warren Erickson, although he plays right tackle, is not in a list here. But you got Warren. I said Warren Erickson. I meant Warren McClendon. You got McClendon, Van Pran, uh, Mims, and I did not say Jones. But those are all guys that are probably going to be drafted. When you look at the defensive line, I mean, obviously Jalen Carter, Zion Logue, Stackhouse, these are both guys that could get drafted, I think, for sure. Ingham Dawkins, Jefferson, Williams. These are all guys I think that could get drafted over time. At linebacker, you know, Dumas Johnson for sure. Munden on the outside. Nolan. I think Beal can get drafted. I'm not sure MJ Sherman won't get drafted. Let's see what happens with Marshall as time goes on. Sorey could certainly get drafted. There's a lot of guys that are second team guys that are going to get drafted. They're just not going to get drafted this coming year. That's one thing Kirby's been talking about. Smith, Christopher Smith, Keely Ringo. I mean, you've got a lot of players on this team. Jack Manesley has just developed. I mean, there's a lot of guys here. Christopher Smith is a number one, I think, on what Georgia's doing in their program. I skip over the Clemson game a lot in this book, but this is the whole page here about the big play from Christopher Smith. And I just thought it was such a big play, really, in the season. I mean, Georgia would have won that game anyway, but that play was just a magnificent individual effort from Christopher as well as from Nakobe Dean, a guy who got drafted lower than folks thought. Here's Keely Ringo, Latravius Breeden, who is at Arkansas right now. This program, I think what Mel Kiper does is gives you a barometer. Doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. It just means it's a big board. I mean, that's all. And we're 3 games into the season. The season's going by quick. You need to take advantage. There's only so many weekends in Athens, y'all. You've got to take advantage of what you've got in Athens, Georgia, and take advantage of the places to eat, Paloma Park, places like that in town that are just awesome. And that there are only 6 home weekends in a season. It means you need to get over there, take advantage of the football game, come to Athens Friday night, take in the town, and then go shopping Friday afternoon, Saturday morning, Saturday after the game. These are all important times. You're only getting so many Athens moments in a fall, and it's going to be great weather and so forth. But that this team is so locked in and good is another reason to really embrace everything Athens. That these guys are all listed the way they are, to me, shows just how good a shape Georgia's in as a program. That they're not any one position, they're not any one player. I think we've known that for a while. This is a good team. It could be a great or elite team. We'll see over time. But there's no doubt that people are paying attention. There's no doubt people have seen what Georgia can do and what they're capable of with this group. And it's recruiting and development. You cannot develop what you don't recruit and sign or transfer in, I guess. Georgia's not necessarily taking that track, but they can. I mean, I think Kendrick was a very important part of Georgia's 21 season. But what Mel Kiper is touching on is the depth that this program's got right now. And it is very admirable that they're in the position that they're in. Kirby deserves a lot of credit for that. And we'll see what happens over the weekend. One reason they're in this position is because so many guys are getting to play real minutes because of Georgia blowing people out. That should happen this week against Kent State. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the website.